ถ้าไม่มีป่าผืนนี้เราก็ไม่มีอาหารเรารักษาป่าไว้ให้ความชุ่มชื้นมันเกิดขึ้นมาได้แล้วก็มีอาหารมีอะไรหลายๆอย่างที่หมู่บ้านเราที่ได้รับจากป่า
Nearly 500 million people across Asia Pacific rely on forests for their livelihoods and well-being. But these forests are disappearing, and their loss is contributing to global climate change. Forests have become the key focus for climate change mitigation initiatives across the globe. Even though many local communities in Lower Mekong manage their forests in a sustainable way, programs to reduce carbon emissions introduce new challenges to these communities.
I think in Asia we have to be aware men and women play a different role in forest activities. So they have different interests, they take different benefits, they take different products and resources from the forest. Whenever we have the climate change project, well, these may influence their access, the way how they make the decision in terms of make use of the forest resources.
Women play an important role in protecting and managing their forests on a daily basis, alongside men, but often new programs and policies underestimate their contribution and ignore their needs and perspectives. A gender equity approach can help us develop programs that are beneficial for both women and men. Gender equity means men and women are treated fairly. They have equal rights and representation, both participate in decision-making, and receive a fair share of benefits. Failing to consider the varying capacities and vulnerabilities of women and men puts communities and their forests at risk for conflict, food insecurity, and poverty. However, recognizing women as key stakeholders and primary users of forests has positive impacts on how forests are managed. So to put gender equity into practice, we need to be aware of its different dimensions. First, we must consider how the benefits, costs, and risks are distributed amongst local women and men. Second, procedures must be in place to help bring both their perspectives to the table. And finally, we must understand the community's social and political dynamics and how it influences their decisions, or the kinds of benefits or costs they will take up. For the communities in the Lower Mekong, this means women need to be part of the decisions that determine how forests are managed from the very beginning. There are several groups making sure that programs better integrate gender into their activities, including the U.S. Agency for International Development.
USAID has policies that require analysis to identify the potential gaps between how men and women are treated. This is to ensure that our partners at all levels are implementing projects that are fair and beneficial to both.
In this video, we will focus on 3 best practices to integrate gender equity into programs: capacity development for women's effective engagement, sex disaggregated data collection, and equitable benefit sharing. In Bantung Yao, a small forest community in northern Thailand, women are at the forefront of sustainable forest management, including the women's community group leader, Ms. Raviwan Kanchaisak. She is one of the many women and men who take part in capacity development programs to learn how to strengthen women's role in forest management.
ในการจัดการป่าอยู่แล้วในเมื่อเราได้รับความรู้ตรงนี้มาเราก็เอาเข้าที่ประชุมให้ผู้หญิงเรียนรู้ไปด้วยแล้วก็ให้ในส่วนของผู้ชายเรียนรู้ไปด้วยแล้วพอเราไปได้แลกเปลี่ยนได้เรียนรู้กับจังหวัดอื่นเนาะที่เป็นมีผู้หญิงอ่ะได้แลกเปลี่ยนได้รู้ในการทำงานของพวกเขาเราก็เอามาปรับใช้ด้วย
And effective capacity building has to go beyond the numbers of women and one-off training events, but rather try to create an institutional support and buy-in from the leadership to promote and sustain this type of capacity building program.
Mr. Vongksai Manivong and Ms. Kamsai Senkeo are from Adapa in southeast Laos, a community that is working to better engage women and men in forest management. Both are leaders from the community and recently participated in a training on gender-integrated planning.
บทบาทหญิงชายนี้มันมีสำคัญต่อการตัดสินปัญหาเวียกงานโดยเฉพาะเกี่ยวกับการคุ้มครองปกปักรักษาป่าไม้ซึ่งว่าติดพันกับการเปลี่ยนแปลงดินฟ้าอากาศซึ่งว่าเดี๋ยวนี้ก็ทั้งเบื้องสากลให้ความสำคัญเกี่ยวกับเรื่องโครงการเรื่องเร็บ
Ms. Kamsai and Mr. Manivong also learned about another best practice, disaggregating and analyzing data according to sex. This helps identify the different roles of men and women in forest management and governance.
In very simple terms, collecting sex disaggregated data means collecting the number of men and women in any events. While that's a good start, you really have to go beyond and see what significance does it really bring to address the gender gaps that remain between men and women.
ในส่วนที่เฮาเก็บกำในข้อมูลในฟอร์มเนาะอาจจะในการสัมภาษณ์เรื่องการนำใส่ทรัพยากรป่าไม้เนาะเพราะว่าเฮาอยากเชื่อมโยงบทบาทของหญิงชายเขาอยู่ในเวียกงานเรทนี่นะเฮาจะต้องได้ฮู้การสงสัยการเข้าถึงของชุมชนนั้นนะในป่าของชุมชนนั้นนะ
แล้วก็การเก็บข้อมูลนั้นก็ให้ผู้หญิงเนี่ยส่งเสริมให้ผู้หญิงเนี่ยมีบทบาทในการเป็นคนเก็บข้อมูลโดยเฉพาะข้อมูลเกี่ยวกับอาหารป่าการดูแลรักษาป่าขึ้นมาเยอะแยะมากแต่ที่สุดนี้ข้อมูลนี้ถูกนำไปใช้ในการเปลี่ยนแปลงการจัดการป่าชุมชนมากขึ้นเช่นการเปลี่ยนแปลงกฎระเบียบซึ่งมันมาจากจะเป็นผู้ชายทั้งหมดปัจจุบันนี้มีผู้หญิงเข้ามามีส่วนร่วมในการเป็นกรรมการถึง 40% ของจำนวนกรรมการทั้งหมดในหมู่บ้าน
By collecting sex disaggregated data, the community learned that some women in Bantung Yao earn a substantial additional income by selling non-timber forest products such as herbs and ant eggs. This information put a value on women's contribution in managing the forest and helped the community realize the need to regulate what they use and how they share the benefits amongst themselves.
ที่เรามาเมื่อกี้ที่ศูนย์เรียนรู้ค่ะทุกคนในหมู่บ้านจะรู้ว่าบ้านเราต้องทำยังไงต้องเป็นยังไงทำยังไง
The key to success for any forest-based climate change initiative is to develop an equitable process for sharing benefits, which takes into account the roles, needs, and contributions of both women and men in the community.
In any decision-making issue, there must be women representative so that they can share or they can raise their voice, they can raise their problem to the community so that they can get the benefit.
Climate change programs like RED Plus can compensate communities for managing their forests. But to ensure that men and women receive a fair share of benefits, programs need to consider their individual roles and interests and let them choose their opportunities and outcomes. A gender equity approach can improve climate change initiatives that focus on Lower Mekong's forests and local communities.
มันเป็นความภาคภูมิใจของหมู่บ้านทุ่งยาวของเราอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเราช่วยกันอนุรักษากันไว้ค่ะ
We've discussed 3 best practices to help address the gaps facing men and women in community forests: capacity development for women's effective engagement, sex disaggregated data and analysis, and equitable benefit sharing. But there are many more best practices that can help you integrate gender equity into your projects. To learn more, visit the links appearing on your screen.